If we could start, before we get into party politics, talking of matters of national interest in this significant development overnight. Many of us very concerned about the 10,000 or so Brits who have so far failed to take up the warnings to leave the country. How many do you think are likely to take those commercial flights that are being provided by the government tomorrow? And if they don't, how likely is it, do you think, that British troops will have to do some sort of rescue operation along the coastline?
Well, I think the actions of Israel are very much in response to Hezbollah's rocket attacks. This has been building for some time. I know the government has been telling British nationals to leave Lebanon for quite some time. The practicalities of a British-facilitated evacuation are incredibly challenging. That's why the travel advice has advised against all travel to Lebanon recently, and the British government has said, and they were right to do so, that British nationals should leave because the circumstances may well be that we can't go and get them.
And obviously the lessons to be learned from what happened in Afghanistan and the chaos with the withdrawal there. What would your message be to any Brits who are wavering? Because, you know, we've heard the Foreign Secretary David Lammy saying there's a potential here for things to escalate very, very quickly.
Well, the situation in Lebanon has been fragile for a very, very long time, and I think perhaps some British nationals there thought, well, we've been nearly but not quite for ages. Maybe it will be okay if we stay. It is clearly now a very dangerous place because of Hezbollah's actions and Israel's response to those attacks. So, British nationals should leave. And they should recognise that it may well be, almost certainly be, impossible for the British military or anyone else to evacuate them if things get worse. So please, please, please leave now, by whatever means you are able to do so, because we may well not be able to come and get you.
Mr. Cleverly, am I talking to the new leader of the Conservative Party?
Yes, that's the plan. That's how I've been campaigning. I've been campaigning because I know that having had the most experience, particularly as party chairman and a general election winning party chairman, I know what we need to do to get our party back in gear, to get our party back in government, and make sure we get rid of this Labour Party, who is already, this party is doing already so much damage to the British people in government. Labour don't deserve to hold that office, and we have to kick them out.
Now, it's a difficult week for you because you've got to get through this week before you can actually face the membership. How difficult is that task?
Well, voting is always a challenging process, and when you're standing as a candidate, you've got to work for every vote. I've been talking to members of Parliament who, of course, have the power in their hands at the next round of voting to choose who goes through to the members. But I'm getting a huge amount of support from the party members, many of whom are telling their MPs to make sure I go through to the final two because they want to have the chance to vote for me. But, you know, I've been former chairman of the party. This is my tribe. This is my clan. These are people I've campaigned shoulder to shoulder with for many, many, many years. And I'm very confident that because of the standing that I have with the members of the party, when I get through to the final two, I'll do very, very well.
What are you doing push-ups? There's pictures of you in the newspapers today as part of this whole campaign there and getting attention around yourself. You're pushing. Are you pushing for votes?
I'm pushing for every single vote, Eamon. Look, that was we were on the cancer research stand. And as your viewers may know, Susie was diagnosed with breast cancer about 3 years ago. The NHS treated her fantastically. She's very, very well on the road to recovery. But I've always been very, very grateful for the research. I did a push-up challenge a while back to raise money for Cancer Research UK, and I was just doing a few press-ups there to draw attention to the work that fantastic charity does.
I want to ask you about some of your work as Shadow Home Secretary, and indeed in that position in government as Home Secretary. I'm looking at the front of the Times this morning, and Labour is claiming that you did no work in the months before the election, that the backlog is far worse than they expected. They think migrants will be stuck in hotels for 3 years at a cost of £4 million a day. Is that on you?
The figures about asylum seekers and arrivals and any backlog were reported every single quarter. If Labour are telling you or anyone else they did not know the figures, they are lying. The figures were in the public domain. The pressure that is building is because of their decision to dismantle some of the work I was doing to break the business model of the people smugglers. 11,000 people have arrived illegally on small boats since Labour took office. That is a big increase. People are dying in the Channel. They have lost control because they had a plan to win the election, but no plan to govern. And just as Rachel Reeves is trying to deceive the British people about the tax rises that she is about to announce in the budget, they are trying to deceive the British people because their stupid decisions cost lives in the Channel and now will reverse the programme I had closing asylum hotels.
Speaking of stupid decisions and deceiving the British public, you've been saying that the Stop the Boats slogan was wrong. A lot of people will say at best it was politically naive, but at worst it was frankly dishonest, wasn't it?
So stopping the boats was absolutely what we wanted to achieve. But my frustration was that because we focused on those three words, we didn't tell the British people that our work with the French authorities stopped about half of the attempted boat crossings. We didn't really get a chance to talk about that because we kept using that slogan. The fact we were interrupting the supply of illicit outboard motors, which was making it harder for the people smugglers. The fact we were interrupting their supplies of illicit finance. Again, all these things were making the smuggling operation much harder for these criminals. But because of those three words, and because people were saying, have you stopped the boats? And of course we weren't able to say yes. I think it obscured the really fantastic work that we had been doing for quite some time. The aspiration was absolutely sound. I wanted to and still want to stop the boats, but having that as a yardstick of our performance, I think obscured the good work that we'd done.
I just want to ask you, finally from me, about Kemi Badenoch and this maternity row. She's been quoted as saying she knows how Margaret Thatcher felt when she said the phrase, no such thing as society. She was misrepresented, she felt, in that article. And she's saying that she thinks that her three rivals, including you, have been attacking her. Have you?
No. Kemi's a long-standing friend. We've been campaigning together for a very, very long time. What I've said is that when candidates are asked questions and give answers, they have to they have to be held account to the answers that they have given. But I've always campaigned positively about my own record, my own ideas and my own capabilities, and I've always said other candidates have to run their campaigns in the way they feel appropriate.
But do you accept her explanation that she was misrepresented, or do you think she actually really believes that statutory maternity pay is excessive?
Well, the point I've made is that when you are asked questions, you have to give the answers in a way that are clear, that they are not liable to be misunderstood. I think that comes with experience of doing media.
So
I've done more media than any of the other candidates running.
Well, give me a clear answer then, if you will, because it's a simple question. Do you accept that her claim that she's being misrepresented?
No, it's not a simple question. Hang on.
Go on. Please go on.
So you're asking me what Kemi thinks. You should ask Kemi what Kemi thinks. The point I'm saying is part of the experience that a leader needs is the experience of doing difficult and challenging and probing political interviews like the ones that you guys do day in and day out. And that experience is what I have more than any of the other candidates.
Well, that's certainly true. I think a lot of people build you up in your experience and the posts that you've you've held before, and you look the part and you sound the part. But whether you get the part is a whole other question. What would the public be getting with James Cleverly as the leader of the Conservative Party? Who would you be?
Well, Eamon, the point that I've been making is that to get back into government, we need to be professional, we need to be a good campaigning organisation. That's what the party would get. But for the country, you would get someone who is committed to bringing down your taxes, someone who's committed to liberating business so that you, your kids, your family have jobs, but not just jobs, better jobs, that we really boost the British economy so we're exporting again. So, for example, rather than relying on Chinese green technology for the green industrial revolution, that we are exporting British green technology to China and Africa and Latin America and around the world. So it's about optimism, it's about a focus on the future, it's about paying less tax, it's about more jobs and better jobs. These are the things that I'm passionate about. These are the things I've always been passionate about. And if I become the leader of the party, I'm best placed to kick out Labour and get this country headed back in the right direction.
Well, in your campaign, Mr. Cleverly, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning.
We've got a minute or so to chat to the panel. What are your thoughts so far? I mean, word is on the street that he's a very nice guy and he's quite popular amongst his peers. Is that going to stand him in good stead, or could that be a fatal flaw?
Well, I think there's going to be another schism because there's already bitchiness because they don't want the party members to be able to vote for the leader of the Conservatives. I'm conscious of the budget, of Rachel Reeves' budget at the beginning of October. Sunak's going to have to do a response to that. I think it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Really ridiculous. Yeah. I would love to know who he's got lined up for his shadow cabinet. I would also like to know who he would like to be up against if he went through to the final two. And ultimately, I think Robert Jenrick might get it.
Yeah, I think Robert definitely will.
How boring is he? I mean, goodness me. I mean, that he is Starmer Mark II type
Really?
thing. Yeah, I honestly think so. But I mean, Cleverly, he's obviously been there. He's been in the position. He's held these posts. He has got a certain amount of character with him.
He's a salesman.
Kemi Badenoch as well. She's exciting.
Well, I mean, James seems to find it very difficult to answer a clear question, even though he's saying the same thing about Kemi. So I don't think any of them are particularly good. But I do actually quite like Robert Jenrick, and I think I'd like to watch him during PMQs.
Why do you like him?
Well, I think he's quite a strong character, and I think he does care about national security. For me, that's one of my biggest concerns in the country.
Well, so does Tugendhat. He cares about national security.
Well, I don't know. I know he was in the armed forces, but I'm not so much. I definitely, out of all of them, Robert Jenrick, no doubt.